This game is just the most sneaky and devious piece of Western imperialist propaganda that I've ever seen. Not only that, it's also extremely open about rewriting historical events, it's extremely orientalist, it disrespects you as the player, even more so if you're Arab. I love Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and I love the iconic Call of Duty 4 as well, the game that inspired this one. Both games are extremely good games when analyzed by any reasonable metric. But every time I play the remake, and the reason why even replaying it for the second time for this video weighed heavily on me, is that this game is just the most sneaky and devious piece of Western imperialist propaganda that I've ever seen. Not only that, it's also extremely open about rewriting historical events, it's extremely orientalist, it disrespects you as the player, even more so if you're Arab. So how am I going to go about this? I will start by discussing the Call of Duty franchise itself, how it came to be and where it is now. I will also discuss the real life events that inspired the events in this game. Then I'll introduce the characters, factions, and the game world at large. After that, I'll go through the entire story in extreme detail, providing what I deem to be necessary analysis, since despite its developers' stated intention to honestly portray the complexities of the global war on terror, Modern Warfare ends up rehashing the same old American cliches about the Middle East. And this video will trace exactly how it does that, mission by mission. This will range from pointing out Arab and Muslim stereotypes, to the symbolism behind some props and actions, to the plain disrespect of the Arabic language really.
My father called Hadir Shabal, his little lion.
Shiblu.
Dir Shabal.
Shiblu.
I won't just point out the bad, however, I will also point out the good, an example of which is Farah's flashback mission, but let's keep that to its time for now. This analysis is not going to be entirely from my head. I will also be using some sources, and you will find them in the description below. I will also be referring to the sources from time to time. But there is one point that I'd like to emphasize again up front, however. This game is a good game from a gameplay perspective. This is not a review of the game, this is an autopsy. And I am frankly not sure if anyone will be interested in this sort of video, but if you are, please subscribe. It won't cost you anything, and I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers here, so why not? So with all of that said, let's talk about the Call of Duty series, shall we? The first Call of Duty, the OG Call of Duty, took place in World War II. It was published in 2003 to universal acclaim, won Game of the Year by multiple reviewers and organizations. Dare I say, this is a game that hit the ground running. Its most distinctive feature were the AI soldiers fighting alongside the player, which was something new at the time, and will remain a core part of most if not all of its campaigns. Fast forward to 2007, two more Call of Duty games had been released, Call of Duty 2 and 3, both of them taking place during World War II as well. But in 2007, the franchise had a change in setting, if you will, since now the setting has become more modern. Up until that point, very few games were able to get into the mainstream while being fully held in a modern setting, but Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare changed that forever. The series then moved to a fictional Middle Eastern country where you get to fight Arab/Muslim terrorists and Russian ultra-nationalist imperialists. This was the first time Arabs and Muslims appeared in the Call of Duty series, and as soon as they did, they were automatically portrayed as the villains, as was the norm in Western media generally. It's important to point this out since this game, Call of Duty 4, is the base that Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the game we're discussing today, was built on. Modern Warfare is a remake of Call of Duty 4, and in Call of Duty 4, the line between villain and hero was very obvious. On top of that, only Westerners were good, and only non-Westerners, so Arabs and Russians, were bad. That's a very important distinction between the original game and the remake, since in the remake, Who the good guy and the bad guys are is not determined based on race anymore, but rather based on alignment with the West. Keep that in mind for later. 2 years later, in 2009, Modern Warfare 2 gets dropped, and then 2 years after that, in 2011, Modern Warfare 3 is dropped. These games build upon the foundation established in the first game and don't have any more distinctive features for the purposes of this video, in comparison to the first game at least. But in 2019, Activision was back at it again, the cow that keeps on giving, and released Call of Duty Modern Warfare to the usual universal acclaim, whether it comes to its campaign or multiplayer mode. And the cow gave alright. In its first few months, the reboot would make upwards of $1 billion in revenue. Its sequel, Modern Warfare 2, released in 2022, made $1 billion in 10 days. And to understand the cultural impact of these games, we have to put things into perspective. These are games that generated billions in dollars and had tens of millions of players. These players are a part of the most impressionable segment of the population, i.e. teenagers and young adults. So for tens of millions of mainly young men, especially in the US, Canada, Australia, and Europe, this game was their first and continuous encounter with the Middle East, Central Asia, Arabs, and Muslims. If we compare that to other forms of media such as documentaries, novels, film, and news, none can reach this level of popularity among this chunk of the population. And more dangerously, none can reach this level of immersion among these young men. Because something that generates $1 billion in 60 days, it doesn't just entertain people, it teaches them things. It shapes how they see the world. And when you're raised interacting with such media, once you grow up and start looking at the news, as Tamur Hussein puts it in a Kotaku article, when you see those same settings in real-world news reports for long enough, the line between truth and fiction can blur. So let's start talking about the real world. We cannot really understand many of the events taking place in this game without putting them in their place, that place being during the so-called War on Terror. The War on Terror is the setup for the alternate universe where Modern Warfare is set, and it has some very specific characteristics identified mainly by the US and the Bush administration. The War on Terror is not a war between two nations, it is a war against, quote, terrorism wherever it may be found. This of course is an excuse, a carte blanche if you will, that permits the US and its allies to wage war wherever they deem necessary, which in turn gives them an excuse to label whoever goes against the interests of the Epstein class and their allies terrorists. All this so that they can defend their interests wherever they want, but mainly in the Middle East. The War on Terror is also described as a, quote, forever war, i.e. a war that is still ongoing and will always be ongoing. The terrorists will breed more terrorists, and if an entire region of hundreds of millions of people, or better yet, a religion of almost 2 billion people are all terrorists, well, they'll never disappear, and the West will always have their justification for military intervention all over the globe. Now imagine how the young adults growing up in this very propagandized environment perceive Arabs and Muslims, when they don't just hear all of that mumbo jumbo in the news but also get immersed in the games, and Modern Warfare makes that incredibly easy to happen. The real world events embedded in the game as fiction make the distinction hard. The Russian occupation in the game where Americans intervene is similar to Chechnya, Afghanistan, and Syria, which implants in the mind of the player that American interventionism is a good thing ultimately. Al-Qatala, the terrorist group in the game, sounds eerily similar to Al-Qaeda. Urzikstan itself, Afghanistan when the game needs mountains and Taliban parallels, Libya when it needs a besieged embassy, Iraq when it needs a highway massacre, and Syria when it needs a Russian bombing campaign. It's all of them simultaneously and none of them in particular, and there is a term for that. Developer Rami Ismail calls it the Arabistan problem, quote. We jokingly call it Arabistan. A game designer once came up with that term. I think a lot of us use it. Some people say it's a nice thing, but I don't see it that way. It just means that we're literally interchangeable. Our cultures are interchangeable. From where I'm sitting, it's like, yes, there is a country in the Middle East and it needs to be bombed. That's not an improvement to me, at least have the decency of picking a place then doing it. But by homogenizing it, they can effectively go, no, we don't mean any of the real people, we mean the fictional Arabs that were by default the terrorists. And he is 100% correct. The game's design director, however, has a different opinion, quote. We just didn't want to get wrapped up in the politics of any specific real-world country. And this to me seems pretty fucked up to say, given that, as we will see, the only fictional country in the game is the one where the Arabs are from. The Russians are from Russia, the Americans are from America, and the British are from Britain. And to demonstrate that further, let us take a look at the main characters of the game. Alex, a CIA operative, the emotional center of the campaign. White, American, broad-shouldered, tattooed forearms, his character model is based on the actor Chad Michael Collins. He is the game's de facto white savior, and we'll unpack that when we reach the ending, but let's plant the seed for now. He is coded as a lovable rogue, someone who breaks the rules for the right reasons, who goes further than his orders allow, who feels things deeply. He is unmistakably the hero of the game. Captain Price from the British SAS, an iconic returning figure from the Modern Warfare trilogy, the most seasoned of the bunch and always, and I mean always, does the right thing. Kyle Gaz Garrick from the British SAS, a black British soldier whose design is based on the actor Elliot Knight. Farah Karim, the Urzik rebel commander voiced by the Lebanese-Australian actress Claudia Dumit, who actually speaks Arab. Taimur Hussein from Kotaku said about her, "It's rare to find a memorable brown protagonist. She leads her country's resistance and is the game's most genuinely strong character." Hadir, Farah's brother, real name Haider, played by Aidan Bristow, who does not actually speak Arabic, which will cause some problems later on. General Roman Barkov, Russian military ruler of Urzikstan. Semi-rogue figure, his own country eventually disavows him, ensuring that the Russians as a nation are not implicated. The Wolf, or Omar Suleiman. Not officially but very obviously based on Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian general assassinated by US military. Al-Qatala's most supreme commander, visual beard, chaotic ideology, no rational political goals, the Joker archetype if you will. And last but not least is the Butcher Jamal Rahar. Al-Qatala's second in command, a completely, utterly, and unnecessarily cruel man, as will become very obvious when we get to the game. With our characters introduced, it's time to finally get into the game.
Our war is not our. We fight to remove all foreign power from our soil. We are. We fight without sorrow. We wage war without sympathy. This is the only to live. And I.
The opening cutscene for Modern Warfare is very straightforward. It has only one aim, and it is to establish the antagonists of our story. In the first shot you have the Wolf and the Butcher. They are introducing themselves in a Taliban/ISIS style video, directly followed up by what is implied to be a terrorist attack of their own doing. They are after all Al-Qatala, the killers, which I mentioned earlier is a ripoff of Al-Qaeda. But while Al-Qaeda can mean the rule or the base, a name infused with a certain ideology at the end of the day, Al-Qatala's branding is a worse version of that. Their name literally just means the killers, which they clarify very quickly for the non-Arabic speaking players. Worthy of noting also that they pronounce the Arabic word Al-Qatala in an English accent. The proper accent is Al-Qatala. The way they say it is Al-Qatala, showing from the start of the game that it's not really about realism or anything of the sort. But let's continue with the briefing of our first mission.
Echo 3-1 to Charlie 2 actual.
Go for actual.
LZ is in sight.
Looks like our boys are right on time, Colonel.
Roger 3-1. Hitman teams are locked and loaded for assault. You are green to go.
Colonel, we may have a problem.
Too late, Laswell. We're live.
Not until I say so. Watch it at 3-1, how copy?
Station Chief Laswell, send traffic.
General Barkov has sent a new shipment of chlorine gas to his depot. But his mercs are prepping to move the chems into Urzikstan via convoy tonight. You're still clear to engage, but live fire on Russian military is prohibited. We cannot have an international incident.
No guarantees Russian army won't respond on this case.
Understood, Alex.
The game opens in Verdansk, a fictional Eastern European country where there is a possibility that nerve gas exists and is possibly being moved into Urzikstan, our fake Arab country. We play as Alex, the CIA operative in charge of the task force. The goal is to locate the gas without firing on Russian army personnel to avoid international troubles. Now, this is already very telling before anything happens. Before we get to do anything, we have to look at the setting. We right now are inhabiting the body of a CIA agent conducting an illegal intelligence operation in a foreign sovereign country, and the game assumes this is the norm. There is no orientation, there is no scene where someone debates whether this is a good idea. You are simply dropped in, gun in hand, mission objective active. The CIA are the heroes, their presence is assumed, their authority is assumed, their right to be there is never questioned. Alexander Christensen's master's thesis from the University of British Columbia titled "The Desert of the Real, Fictional Middle Eastern Countries in American Media" describes what he calls the invisible author problem in video games. In a film, there is a director. There is someone you can point to and say, this person made these choices, and I can hold them accountable for these choices. In a video game, especially a first-person shooter, the experience is designed to feel player-driven, fully formed, neutral, as if the world is simply this way and you are simply moving through it. But when you think about it, every single decision made about this narrative is deliberate. The CIA being heroes is a choice. The chemical weapons being in Russian hands is a choice. The first enemy speaking with an Arabic accent is a choice. And the last one holds more weight since within the first minute of gameplay, the first voices coming at you, the player, are threatening, and they deliberately have an Arabic accent. There's something else Christensen notes about first-person perspective. In a first-person shooter, you never see your own body. You are, in his words, quote, eyes without a body or a floating camera with a gun. The gun is permanently affixed to you. Every relationship you can have with the world is mediated through it. Interaction with the world is exclusively violent. That is not neutral, that is a biased worldview. But back to the mission. We as Alex move on through the mission, killing mostly faceless Russian silhouettes due to the mission taking place on a foggy night, and by the end of the mission we locate the nerve gas. But our hero CIA team gets ambushed by an unknown militant group.
Back up!
Watcher to 3-1, how copy? Alex, do you read? Over.
I got you, 3-1. Shit. Who the fuck is this?
سيدي نعم فرد ماله روسي مارينز عم نتابع لازم نتحرك فورا تحركوا يلا يلا يلا
Echo 3-1 to Watcher.
Alex, what happened?
Terrorist attack. Multiple Marines KIA. Gas stolen. We need evac now.
Roger. Tracking multiple Russian forces headed your way. Sit tight. We're pushing to you for fast exfil. Watcher out.
They take the gas, they speak the worst Arabic known to mankind, and Alex calls it a terrorist attack, despite Alex and his squad not being even remotely close to civilians. But it falls in line with the narrative pretty well, doesn't it? Arabs attacked Westerners, so it's automatically coded as a terrorist attack, despite it never being close to that by any reasonable definition of the word. I'll also have a shitty Arabic counter somewhere here, but spoiler alert, it won't last long.
Operation is now compartmentalized.
What the hell does that mean?
Means you no longer have clearance, Colonel.
Those are my Marines. We need a QRF in there right now.
That's not advisable.
And that is not your call.
Colonel, Laswell,
General, my men...
Norris, give us a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got a situation. The Kremlin has suspended all deconfliction channels. The Sixth Fleet is pushing into the Black Sea, and chemical weapons are now in the wild. Your fingerprints are all over this, Laswell. Fix it.
General, right now intelligence is our best weapon.
We've tried intelligence. Get me a better weapon.
John,
Laswell.
where are you?
Occupied.
I've got a problem.
Russians?
Word travels fast. Chemical weapons have fallen into terrorist hands. They could be anywhere. Paris, New York.
London.
When can you brief?
We just did.
These two scenes are mostly here to be a sick, cool introduction to Captain Price, who, as a fan favorite, will naturally have an important role in the game's narrative.
Sergeant Garrick, roger up.
Go for Garrett.
Terror threat level is now critical. Possible multiple attackers. Bombers or something worse.
Do we have snipers in position?
Negative, Sergeant. Can't unduly alarm the public.
Terrorists know that too, sir.
Garrick, don't turn London into a war zone, clear?
Yeah, Crystal. Out.
Looks like we're on our own, lads.
We'll handle it. Let's get it done, yeah?
Hey, firm.
Sergeant? Heads up. White van.
Weapons in view.
That's them. Saber to Raven. White van, multiple military-age males. Weapons visible. Moving to intercept.
Roger. Unless an attack is imminent, do not engage.
White van, left side. Go, go!
They're here, brothers! They're here! Come here! Go!
Don't fucking move!
Police, freeze! Get your hands up now!
Get down on the ground! Right now! Not gonna tell you again!
A suicide bomber detonates in one of the most recognizable public places in the Western world, Piccadilly Circus in London. Al-Qatala gunmen flood the street. Kyle Garrick, a Metropolitan Police sergeant, responds to the chaos. He eventually encounters Captain Price. They fight their way out together. The alliance that will drive the rest of the game is formed here, in the wreckage of London's most famous intersection. In this shootout, you will have a variety of enemies as well. Not just generic gunsmen shooting at you, there are also random suicide bombers spread out throughout the level, which is an oversimplification as to why suicide bombing came to be in the first place as a violent act, but this is a whole different video that I won't get into here. After Kyle meets Captain Price,
Captain Price. Sergeant Garrick.
they also encounter a group of hostages stuck in a building with a bomb strapped to one of them. Captain Price does the right thing as expected in this mini trolley problem to save as many people as he can. There is no reason given to either the suicide bomber or the bomb strapped to the hostage, but whatever. It just comes down to those Muslim Arab terrorists be terrorizing, man, you know? Now, Christensen points out something about the geography of the mission that is easy to miss. Piccadilly Circus is a place Western players personally know, or feel they know. It's a landmark, it's on postcards, it's where you take photos when you visit London. And by making it a battlefield, by dropping you into the act of defending it from terrorism, the game performs a specific emotional operation. It brings the threat home. The elsewhere of the war on terror, which happens in reality overwhelmingly to people in the Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa, is suddenly here, on soil the player recognizes, in a city the player might have visited or might want to visit or might be from. The urgency this creates is not neutral, it's manufactured, and it's ideologically loaded whether it's intended or not. There's something else. Between every player death in this game, a rotating set of quotes appear on the loading screen. They are genuinely thoughtful quotes. Some of them are, "When the rich wage war, it's the poor who die." Jean-Paul Sartre. "Terrorism is what we call violence of the weak, and war is what we call the violence of the strong." These are quotes that would, in another context, amount to criticism critiques of this very conflict the game is dramatizing. But the game is quoting anti-imperialists while being an imperialist artifact. As Christensen puts it, something about this may strike the player as contradictory given that it's followed by another chance. You die, you see the quote, you try again, the game moves on. The critique lands for a second and then it disappears. It never really becomes the point. One more thing to plant into your memory is that the suicide bomber at Piccadilly is the game's first act of self-sacrifice. Keep that in mind as we'll come back to it when we reach the ending. For now, let's take a look at this interesting conversation between Kyle and Captain Price.
You saved lives today, Sergeant.
It shouldn't have happened in the first place, sir. They sent us in half-assed. So everyone could just keep pretending we're not at war.
Yeah, like the fucking century, that is.
Why have we got our hands tied? Let's just take the bloody gloves off and fight. Sir.
Go on.
We don't stand a chance in hell with these rules of engagement, Captain. They can tell us where, they can tell us when. Don't tell us how. My men were tracking that cell for weeks.
Well, you had actual intel on this?
Quite a bit, sir.
Okay, Garrett. You're with me.
This is the actual first attempt from the game to do anything really with the setting it has given us. Kyle wants to quote, take the gloves off, which could be seen as an attempt to relate to the edgy wannabe army teenagers. Or it could be to try and establish character opposing views between two of the main characters in the game. Regardless, it does not sit well with me, as later on, actions that amount to war crimes will be committed by the West. They'll take the gloves off, so to speak, but it'll be justified, of course.
Al-Qatala is claiming responsibility.
Orders from the wolf in Urzikstan.
Alex is on the ground there looking for the stolen chems.
Well, he'll need the Liberation Force on his side, so have him contact the CR.
You know Commander Karim?
We're acquainted. Use my name, or they'll kill him.
What is your message from Captain Price?
Commander Karim. Call me Alex.
I'm listening, Alex.
This is classified.
يلا ولا قدامي جهزوا لي هالكم.
"48 hours ago, terrorists stole a shipment of Russian gas.
Only Al-Qatala would do this.
The Russians make no distinction between Al-Qatala and your people.
And I make no distinction between Al-Qatala and the Russian army. They're both terrorists. We would never use these poisons.
Then help us track it before they...
Before they what? Take it to Europe? Or America? We live like this every day.
Commander, it's time to go. Who is this?
Alex, this is my brother and Lieutenant, Hadir.
You are CIA?
He works with Captain Price.
Then you kill Russians, yes?
I have friends who can help us. But your sister decides what's next.
Of course. My sister is in command. And the Russian army is still here.
This occupation must end. That we can all agree on, yes? General Barkov's men control the city. We have plans to change that.
We have no missiles, but we have our ways.
If you stay, we can help you. But if you stay, you fight.
Yelanato.
Marhaba li Urzikstan, Alex.
Follow me.
So Alex is in Urzikstan because the CIA is trying to avoid a disaster happening with the nerve gas. He meets Farah in a slightly tense situation, but it goes well for him since he is sent by Price. Something to take note of here is that Farah makes no distinction between Al-Qatala and the Russians. They are both terrorists according to her, despite Al-Qatala claiming that they do what they do to liberate Urzikstan. Keep this in mind as we'll need it later. Farah also asserts that she will not be using the nerve gas under any circumstances, and if we keep going, going about what Farah believes, we'll find something very interesting. It's that Farah's opinions and actions align almost exactly with the CIA. Surely they might be doing the same actions for different reasons, but the actions are the same. And these actions are the de facto correct actions. The reason I'm mentioning this is that Farah is the first good Arab we get to meet in the game. And it just so happens that the only good ones amongst this sea of terrorists are the ones whose actions align exactly with the West. Farah and her resistance group set an example to how Call of Duty approaches Arabs. Before, the possibility of a good Arab was nil, but now you can be a good Arab, but only if you hold the correct opinions and approach your liberation in the way the West determines. If you do otherwise, then you are a terrorist. And to really drive that point home, they made the only other Arabs Joker-like, mad, out of their minds villains, which at least in my opinion is a deliberate choice. Also, the shitty Arabic counter is going off again. Not with Alex, of course, who is an American actor, it makes sense for him, but with Hadir this time. But back to the game, shall we? We're now tasked with a little stealthy mission for which we take tunnels, similar to Hamas, and the Viet Cong. We're supposed to now blend in with our surroundings while moving through the city in order for us to reach the area we're supposed to blow up. Another example, of course, of justifying CIA intervention in other countries. They don't just go in to make sure Western corporations suck that country dry or anything. They actually do it to liberate them. This is fiction, though. I'm sure this propaganda doesn't just stick to the back of your head as a teenager playing this game or anything. But continuing our mission, we get more sick stealth sequences. We get a shot of people hanging from a crane with a Russian soldier, justifying it by calling them terrorists. Similar to how war criminals in the US or Israel justify killing civilians and babies. But after that, we're tasked with reaching 2 helicopters that will blow up in order to be able to ambush Russian soldiers. While doing this objective, we get to hear Barkov spouting what I can only call American war on terror propaganda.
These freedom fighters and their collaborators threaten the safety and security of those who follow them.
2 down.
They will be punished.
Nice.
I'm at the target.
You know what to do.
Charge set. This will make one hell of a distraction.
That's the plan. Now get to the other helicopter.
Root out these interventionists and hold this territory forever. There will be no victory for enemy. Only death. Russia is here to defend your life, your liberty.
Use the stairs.
The propaganda of "we're here to defend you, to save you from terrorism," which really speaks volume to how self-aware the game really is. They are deliberately, in this case, taking the lies that America said, knowing that they are lies, shoved them down the throats of fake Russians and acted like they did the whole thing. The Russian occupation here is also shown in detail. Forced labor camps, checkpoint brutality, civilian executions, summary killings. It's genuinely awful. It's designed to make you feel moral outrage. Barkov soldiers don't just occupy, they torture. They don't just control, they humiliate. They are portrayed as sadistic beyond any practical military purpose. The evil is vivid, visceral, almost theatrical. But why? Because the Russian occupation of a foreign country were shown as bureaucratic, strategic, calculated, which is how all occupation actually operate. It would look uncomfortably like the occupation of Iraq or Afghanistan, or the dozens of countries where the US forces have operated without the consent of the local population. To make Russian bad imperialism distinct from American good imperialism, Russian bad imperialism has to be qualitatively worse than anything any other country has ever done. It has to be extra evil, mythically evil. And we'll see the most obvious manifestation of this pattern in the Mission Highway of Death, so keep that in mind.
You are in my house now, Alex. I set up on the edge of Barkov's base. Keep those fucking dogs in check. Friends close. Enemies closer.
I told you we have our ways. No grenades, so we improvise.
Not bad.
think we fight this war with sticks and stones?
So we're now starting a mission called Proxy War, the name of this very obviously referring to the Urzik freedom fighters being proxies for the Western powers. Again, very self-aware. Also, the shitty Arabic counter goes up again. Alex embeds with Farah's forces. We fight alongside them in guerrilla operations against Barkov's occupying army. This mission is honestly very long and uninteresting for the purposes of this video otherwise. It is a good mission where you try to take over this Russian military base, and once things get very overwhelming, you get to bomb these random very evil Russians from a plane, and that's about it.
Alex and Commander Karim's forces have destroyed General Barkov's forward operations base, temporarily limiting Russian air capability in Urzikstan. We need to move fast. Sergeant Garrick, thanks to your intel, we tracked the Al-Qatala cell responsible for the Piccadilly attack to a townhouse in North London. 3 SAS teams will get inside and connect the dots. If the Wolf is in possession of the stolen Russian gas in Urzikstan, we need to find him. Be advised, there may be non-combatants on target. Check your shots.
Targets are up, boys. Let's kick this off.
This is the GOAT of Modern Warfare missions and definitely the most tactical of the bunch. We, alongside Captain Price and a SWAT team, conduct a night raid on Al-Qatala safe house just outside London. Inside the house, however, there are men, women and children, and the game here adheres to the rules of engagement pretty well. You cannot shoot anyone who is unarmed. The men are all armed, some of the women are, but the ones that aren't may or may not reach for guns, and you're only allowed to shoot them if they do. The babies thankfully cannot be shot without ruining your mission, a standard lost on the IDF. But back to the women. This game represents Muslim women in two very obviously distinct ways. Two archetypes, if you will. Archetype A, the good Muslim woman. That's Farah, combat figure, Kurdish aesthetic, hairdress that reads as military, not as Muslim headscarf in the Western cultural shorthand. She doesn't look like the Muslim women you see on Western news coverage. She is demarked as a Muslim while being Muslim. She is, as Gaming Islam podcast professors put it, Western legible. She is safe. There is also archetype B, the bad or ambiguous Muslim woman. That's the women in this house. Full headscarves, association with Al-Qatala, whether by ideology, complicity, or simple geography. The game doesn't specify and doesn't care to. Their morality is communicated not through words but through visuals. The headscarf is the signal. You cannot shoot them unless they shoot first. The game maintains this rule, but when they do act, the game immediately provides justification. Good job, we dropped her then. But was she really going for the detonator? The game never really confirms it. They just say that she was going for the detonator. She might have been reaching for a light switch. She might have been terrified. She might have been trying to run. The squad leader asserts it confidently and the team agrees, and you move on. This is the operating logic of counter-terrorism. Moral certainty in the face of ambiguity. The decision is made in a second. The justification follows automatically, and no one is ever held accountable because the mission was a success. Rami Ismail in Kotaku puts the game's racial logic bluntly. You can kill as much Arab blood as you want. Not political, no context required because they are the bad guys. But if you want to hurt somebody else in the game, assuming it's not a Nazi or a Russian or a South American, you need a justification. You can't just shoot an American. That's bad.
The attic of the Al-Qatala townhouse was a gold mine. Looks like we found the wolf. Communications from the laptop were tracked to Ramaza Hospital in Urzikstan, where the Al-Qatala leader is believed to be holed up. Farah's forces will track terror activity at the hospital, while a Marine ground force can be mobilized to advance on the complex. Echo 3-1 will capture the wolf for interrogation about the stolen Russian gas.
So the Wolf and Al-Qatala are hiding in a hospital and using civilians as human shields. You see why I say it's the same playbook? Isn't that what they accused Hamas of doing, but it turned out it was the Israelis doing that? You know, when an Israeli soldier showed a calendar and called it a terrorist sign-in sheet? But I digress. The terrorist group is now in the hospital. Alex, Farah and the rest of the freedom fighters want to free it and capture the Wolf, their leader. Shitty Arabic counter +1. Another thing I'd like to mention is Farah's anger at Al-Qatala for giving her people a bad name.
If you use these tactics, you are my enemy.
No exceptions?
None. Al-Qatala has given my people a bad name, and we have paid dearly for their crimes. I want to see the wolf punished.
name. This is something that we as Arabs, as Muslim, especially the ones living in the West, suffer from a lot. We tend to always be self-conscious in how we dress, where we go, how to act, etc. We do our best really to try and avoid this Orientalist, racist, Islamophobic look from the broader society. And it's not even enough. Just a few days ago, at the time of writing this, a mosque shooting happened where 3 people were killed. The shooters were a 17 and an 18-year-old with Nazi symbols on their weapons. They proceeded to kill themselves afterwards, which is honestly a shame, but regardless. I'm not saying that games like Call of Duty caused them to do this, but the parallels are clear between a video game where you get to shoot Arabs and Muslims and a shooting done by teenagers on Arabs and Muslims. It's not the main reason, but it sure as hell didn't help push them away from doing this at the very least. As for the mission, we join American forces coming to save the Middle East, just like real life, alright? We shoot these random Arab men until we are able to make our way into the hospital. We reach the Wolf that has 3 Marines as hostage that weren't mentioned at all. Of course, as soon as he captures them, he doesn't escape and use them for a hostage exchange or something. You know, the rational thing to do. These are, after all, the irrational terrorists. They do what terrorists do, and on the spot, in the middle of a war basically, open a camera and start recording beheadings of all things. However, we, of course, get the Wolf in time and find out that the Wolf's name is Omar Suleiman, which is, like I mentioned earlier, eerily similar last name to Qasem Soleimani, who the US murdered in one of their operations in Iraq a couple of years ago.
أعطونا الديب ولا بناخده.
2-6, Echo is on the 3rd deck for RV. Be advised, primary entry point is clear, but that window is rapidly closing.
Roger. Well down in 3 mics. 2-6 out.
3 minutes.
In 3 minutes, my people will be inside. They will kill all of you.
I chose to take you alive. I could still change my mind.
You have the wrong man.
Lies. Tell them what you've done.
We did not steal the gas.
Who did?
Someone very dangerous.
Where is it?
I wish I knew.
The butcher is outside. They'll burn the city if they have to.
Save yourself, daughter. Join us. Do not talk to her.
Hey! Tap the brakes.
I am not your child, old man. I lead soldiers. You train killers.
But we are all killers here, no?
They're gonna breach. We gotta move now! 3-1 to 2-6, shots fired. Moving to secure the HVI, will advise.
So the Butcher, the second in command in Al-Qatala, is attempting to enter the American embassy, while Farah, Kyle, Alex and Price as well as the Wolf are inside. The American ambassador is killed, an embassy staffer named Stacy must be guided to safety via security cameras, a child is shot off screen by the Butcher, the Wolf is freed in the chaos and escapes. The mission ends in tactical failure, but now let me tell you what this mission is actually modeled on. On September 11th, 2012, the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya was attacked. Ambassador Chris Stevens was killed. The attack became one of the most politically weaponized events in American political history, the subject of congressional hearings, competing narratives, and Michael Bay's 2016 film 13 Hours. Christensen's thesis documents that the embassy mission in modern warfare is so closely models on based film. The architecture, the layout, the siege dynamics, the loss of an American ambassador, etc., that the game level appears to be a near digital recreation of base sets, not even the real Benghazi compound, but of the movie version of Benghazi compound. By the time the event has passed through these layers of mediation, the real Benghazi attack may as well not have taken place. The game offers players a victory. The ambassador dies, but the player completes the mission that the real event didn't contain. It gives you the emotional charge of Benghazi while stripping away every political and historical context that made Benghazi mean anything. And Benghazi was not politically neutral, it was weaponized for years by the American right as a symbol of government failure, as a cultural war flashpoint. By gamifying it and dropping it into a fictional country, the game absorbs the emotional charge without taking off the political responsibility. This is it. This is the most important section of this entire video. Remember when I talked about the game's tendency to take things that Americans have done and claim the Russians did them? This is the final boss of that. The Highway of Death. The Highway of Death is a real name. It refers to Highway 80 in Kuwait. On February 26th and 27th, 1991, during the first Gulf War, a US-led coalition, American, British, French, Canadian forces bombed a 2-mile stretch of the Basra Highway in Kuwait. Iraqi soldiers were retreating, so were civilian vehicles full of families, workers, and people who just happened to be on that road. An estimated 200 to 1,000 people were killed. Former US Attorney General Ramsey Clark called it, in his 1992 book, a war crime. The Washington Post reported the US government, quote, scrambled to shape the narrative around those photographs of the burning cars, skeletal remains, and children's toys in the wreckage, before they could define the public perception of the war. The Highway of Death means one thing in American imagination. It means armed forces bombed a road full of people. It's one of the most disturbing documented American actions of the Gulf War era.
The wolf is with the butcher. Terrorist cells in the city will hide them. Bravo will clear house to house in search. My people will help you. If they try to escape to the mountains, there is only one road. Tariq al-Mut, the Highway of Death. The Russians bombed it during the invasion, killing the people trying to escape. There is a village at the crossroads. I sent Hadir and his fighters there to prepare an ambush. Alex and I will join them and take up firing positions above the road, lying in wait for the wolf.
In modern warfare, this specific name, is lifted and applied to a Russian atrocity in a fictional country. When Infinity Ward's Taylor Kurosaki was asked about this, he said, "You could probably find many instances of Highway of Death being used in a lot of cases." This is technically true and completely evasive. The phrase has one dominant meaning in Western political memory. Using it for a Russian war crime is not a coincidence and not ambiguity, it's revisionism. Christensen's analysis is the most precise summary I have read of what this choice does. Quote, "Seeing the highway but casting it as a Russian atrocity allows the player to be disturbed without feeling complicit. The mission highlights the devastation of the war, but the decontextualized milieu upholds the ideological frameworks that underline these wars. The game gives Western players access to the horror of the real event that the West caused, which is the visceral image of a highway full of bombed civilians, and then gives them the catharsis of directing their moral outrage at Russia instead of their own governments. This is American guilt, outsourced to a fictional Russian villain. The pattern, however, will not stop here. It will continue to manifest itself in other actions done by the Russians in the game. I'll let you know when we get to another blatant example, and we'll find a couple more. But back to the mission. This is the long-range sniper mission of the game, which I honestly think is worse than the predecessor from Call of Duty 4. Also, the bad Arabic counter is off the charts at this point. There is no point really in keeping track anymore, since all of the fighters here speak shitty Arabic anyway, except for Farah, sometimes. In this mission, as mentioned in the intro cutscene, we are waiting for the wolf in order to capture him or take him out. In the meantime, we are attacking the hordes of Al-Qatala soldiers heading our way, but then the Russians start showing up and attacking them as well. Then they come for us in great numbers until Hadir decides to do this.
Get to my truck, Alex!
Over by the barrel! There he is!
Come on, Alex! I have ordnance in my truck! Help me!
Understood!
My truck is full of explosives! It's time to use them! Open the tailgate quickly! Uncover us!
Russian gas?
Yes! And now we send it back to the... The gas masks are in the bunker! Come quickly!
Hadir! What is this?
I can't stop already!
What?
The gas! If they can use it, so can we! Go, sister, inside!
And so we get the answer to the question of who stole the gas in the beginning of the game. It was Farah's brother, Hadir. Just notice from now on how the game is going to treat Hadir for not complying with how the West expects him to fight his occupier. But on to my favorite mission of the game. Hometown is the 9th mission of the game. The mission starts from Farah's perspective, and this remains the case throughout the mission. You as Farah appear to be trapped under the rubble of a bombed building. The only thing you can see as Farah opens her eyes is rubble and metal and a little bit of light. After you take everything in, you realize that you can look around, and out of the blue you're met with Farah's dead mom's body. She calls for her mom to wake up while sobbing, but nothing happens. Then the game prompts you to grab a rock and hit a metal plate that probably made part of the ceiling of the building you were in. The rescuers soon hear you and come up to save you from under the rubble and dig out your mom's body. Afterwards, you're given to your dad. He inquires in a panic about your brother. You tell him that he is home and was not with you and your mom. And then an explosion that gets everyone running the other way. You try to get home, but you're faced with occupying forces that fire on civilians, and you run the other way until you get to a market. In the market, a sequence starts where you have to follow your dad and go home while witnessing dead and injured people everywhere. Until right before reaching home, a group of occupying soldiers throw chemical weapon grenades, but you make it into the house before breathing anything. You reunite with your brother. Your dad hands out a phone to you and a gas mask to your brother and a phone. And right before you head out, an occupying soldier enters the house. He attacks your dad and then your brother while trying to defend your dad. After that begins a very stressful part of the mission where you have to find the weapon, grab it, sneak attack the soldier with it multiple times until it dies. It's brutal, raw, and horrifying. After you attack the soldier multiple times, your brother helps you go kill him, and you go to check in on your father, but he is dying. And after he takes his last breath, you realize that it's you on your brother on your own now. You begin to head outside with him, following him closely while wearing your gas mask because of the green gas filling the air. Nothing out there is alive anymore. Not the humans nor the animals, nothing. Only the soldiers shooting the wounded while you sneak past them and the bodies. This part is absolutely traumatizing to say the very least. As you sneak your way out of the city, you finally find the truck where you and your brother make a plan to distract the soldiers and kill them to grab their truck. You distract them by calling your brother's phone and then grabbing a gun. Then you try to find the perfect time to shoot them and survive. When that's done, you and your brother finally make your way into the truck, but the victory is short-lived since you get caught before doing anything else and your head gets covered. You then wake up as the character you play as in the modern day, Alex. In front of you is Farah, lying down, wearing a gas mask. This mission is effective. It earns real emotional investment in Farah's story. But effective storytelling is not neutral storytelling. The Gaming Islam professors describe what's happening here as emotional engineering. The game needs you to love Farah so that her cause feels unambiguously just, and so it gives her the most sympathetic origin story possible. A father's sacrifice, a child's terror, a decade of resistance that begins in this house, on this night, at this act of violence. Before you can ever question Farah's methods, you are preemptively committed to her cause. The game, however, will not extend this courtesy to Hadir, and we need to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is it specifically Farah that we get to empathize with but not Hadir? I believe I already said that, but I'll say it again. It's because his method of how he wants to free his own country doesn't comply with the West. At least, that's my interpretation of it. And one more thing to note here, Farah's father's death in the game is the second act of sacrifice. A man who chooses to die for his children. We are watching the game build a structure. First, the suicide bomber, then Farah's death, then the final act of the structure will be Alex's self-sacrifice at the end. Hold all three in your memory. The game is making an argument about what kind of sacrifice are noble and who gets to make them.
My brother always wanted to fight without rules. Now he's broken all of them.
Hadir went north. He was picked up by AQ fighters in the foothills.
Voluntarily or by force?
We don't know.
I'm sorry, Farah.
Your brother
is a terrorist.
Is an American asset who is either with or in terrorist hands.
Hadir's fight's not with us. He could have killed everyone when he stole the gas, but he chose not to.
How do you know this?
I was there, trying to stop it.
Why didn't you tell me?
We believed it was Al-Qatala. We didn't know it was him.
We know now. We're going after him tonight.
I'll come with you.
You'll be hunting your own brother.
He is not my brother. Not anymore.
Barkov's gonna put a bounty on his head.
All right, well, let's get him first.
Any further complications and we're at war with Russia.
Well, that don't complicate it.
This is a bad idea, Farah.
We take care of our own here.
Not usually what that means.
It does here. I want Farah on the team. I'm not asking.
Fine. You have execute authority. All of you. Okay, let's brief up. Imagery confirms Hadir was in possession of the remaining stolen gas when he made direct contact with Alcatala's most brutal enforcer, the Butcher. Surveillance tracked their vehicles to a residential complex in the Acris Mountains, believed to be the Wolf stronghold. Alex and Farah will hold orbit for secondary clearance, while Bravo 6 leads the assault force to locate the chemical agents, retrieve Hadir, and kill the Wolf.
So, we are going to retrieve Hadir and kill the Wolf in a major assault on Al-Qatala's stronghold. Al-Qatala's ideology is stated explicitly in the beginning of the game. They want to bring down the entire world order. Not for religious reasons, not for territorial reasons, not even for political reasons that can be negotiated with. They want collapse. Full stop. They are the Joker from The Dark Knight Rises. Al-Qatala's designation as an irrational chaos agent has a very specific political function. An enemy with no rational goals can only be destroyed, never negotiated with. You can't offer concessions to someone who wants everything to burn. You can't have peace talks with the Joker. The only available response is extermination. But here's what the game actually erases in constructing this. Al-Qaeda, the obvious real-world parallel, down to the phonetic echo of the name, has concrete, articulable political grievances. So does Hamas and Hezbollah. So does every armed group that has ever been designated terrorist by a Western government. US military presence in the Middle East, support for authoritarian regimes, territorial disposition, economic exploitation. These grievances may not justify the methods, but they exist. They are real. They are political. And the game's refusal to acknowledge that any of its antagonists could have any rational goals is itself a political position. It takes the most convenient possible stance for justifying military violence. The enemy is irrational. The only language they understand is force. And one note on aesthetics. Al-Qatala formally issues religion, but look at the fighters, the beards, the Arabic, the Muslim women in the background. The game maintains the aesthetic association with Islam while denying the textual connection. You feel it, but you're not supposed to say it. This is plausible deniability at the level of narrative design. The mission structure strongly echoes the 2011 US assassination of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, a nighttime compound raid targeting a terrorist leader, but the game of course fails to note the parallel. One thing I've noticed about this mission while going through the compound is the Muslim women. They all tend to wear hijabs despite being at home. Like, this is the reason I shower with my hijab on meme. Or like when a female co-worker asked my hijabi wife about how she doesn't feel pain with the needles holding her hijab being inserted into her skin, into her skull. Regardless, we get Captain Price being thanked by the woman he just raided after she just gives up the Wolf's location.
Thank you.
معلش انتبهنا. وين الديب؟
برفة العادة تحت الأرض.
And we go down in the tunnels again. And of course, as soon as we find the Wolf, we find him with a bomb vest attached to him. Because why not at this point? We kill him, disarm the bomb, and leave.
Alex! It wasn't me. I'm glad it was you.
You bet we couldn't kill him twice.
Thanks, mate.
Congratulations on a job well done. As much as we can all hear the ice in the glass, I'm afraid our toast has to wait. Hadir and his new friends are on the move.
What are they?
One step at a time.
No one said they're friends.
The general would tend to disagree.
Norris, I asked you to let me
Tell
handle-
him, Laswell. Or I will.
Command has officially redesignated Farah's forces.
You want to translate that from bullshit to English?
It means they're on the list.
What list?
Foreign terror organization list. I've ordered my Marines to treat Farah's army as hostiles.
What? They're our allies.
Yeah, not anymore.
Will you keep your muppets on a short string, Colonel?
Or what?
I'll fucking hang you from it.
Kate, these people need our support.
There's nothing else we can do.
Well, there's plenty we can do.
I'm tired of being told who my friends are.
Alex, don't.
I'm going back to Urzikstan, staying with Farah's army.
What you're doing is illegal.
I'm pretty sure everything we do is illegal.
Only the good stuff. You got friends nearby?
You too.
Thank you. For everything.
Well, it's not over yet. Trust me.
I always have.
Farah's organization is now on the terror list. I guess the game is pretty realistic after all. But of course, Alex's arc takes a shift. He's not a military man anymore. He has been infatuated by the cause of the Orient and is now going to stay with Farah and their group. At least he realizes that everything they do is illegal. But despite the game saying it, one throwaway line holds no value when the entire game has been treating the West's illegal actions as the norm. Anyways, remember that pattern part of the game assigning American things and actions to Russians? Well, this is another example.
Now is your chance to tell the truth. In there. The chair, Farah. There will be no escape, Farah. No one is coming to your rescue. I'm in control here. And I can make your life much easier. Now, tell me about Commander Karim and the failed message.
Karim is dead.
Stop protecting him. Protect yourself. I've been patient with you, but no more. Stay awake and you might see your brother one last time. He's gonna give you a drink. Try to breathe. Breathe, Farah. You can do it.
Well, well, well. Where have I seen torture camps with waterboarding and much worse things before? Does the name Guantanamo Bay ring a bell? The hundreds or maybe thousands of people tortured under the guise of American national security? Once again, the game is attaching American war crimes that live in the Western psyche and more importantly in the Arab psyche as America associated to the fictional Russians. I'm not doubting that Russia has done infinitely worse things than what's shown in the game, but can we at least get some self-reflection past Alex's throwaway line of everything we do is illegal? Anyways, after Farah's torture, we get a prison break. Farah and her fellow prisoners stage a desperate escape using improvised weapons. It's the game's single longest sequence featuring Muslim women as primary actors, at the moment of the greatest female empowerment in the entire game, the moment where Muslim women fight back, escape, refuse to be defied by their imprisonment. Their Muslimness is entirely removed. Heads shaved, cultural markers gone, not speaking Arabic but English with an accent, which is shorthand for international but accessible. The battle cry is sisters.
Well done, sisters! Barkov locked the others in the warehouse.
Universal rather than specific. Nothing about them in the scene reads as Muslim or even Arab in particular. The game needs Muslim/Arab women to be strong in order to be progressive, but it makes them strong by demarking their identity. Think about this paradox. The most authentically Arab scene in the game, Farah speaking Arabic in her command tent leading her fighters, requires the audience to accept that she is Muslim and good. The game does that work carefully over many hours. But the most empowering scene in the game given to Muslim women strips away everything that makes them who they are. Because Western audiences are comfortable with universal sisterhood. They are not, the game seems to assume, comfortable with specifically, recognizably Muslim empowerment. The game can't have it both ways, but it tries to. And the trying reveals the limits of what mainstream AAA representation is actually willing to do. But back to the game again. Captain Price and his team show up to rescue Farah and her group. They accompany them to break her brother and his team out. They essentially get saved by the West. Then we get this.
Go north. Avoid the highway. Bravo 6 to Cobalt 4, confirming station time.
10 minutes.
Rog, hold orbit. Hurry now. Barkov's gonna come and claim his dead.
Yalla, Tazerna.
You know he's gonna make you pay for this.
We will make them pay.
We'll be ready.
My men have cleared the road to the north. You can camp there, it's safe.
Thank you.
The revolution begins now, sister.
The war begins now, brother.
Even war's a high ground. Stay on it.
Bravo 6, wheels up in 2.
"20 years of civil war.
There's nothing civil about it.
Hadir's well trained. Teamed up, kidnapped, doesn't matter. He took the gas to Russia, John.
Yeah, he did that without Katala's help.
Got the network and the manpower.
Can you blame him, right?
Unofficially, no. But this is bigger than Hadir now. We've got 2 options.
Well, we warn Moscow.
Or we let Mother Russia have a taste of her own medicine.
No, a lot of innocent people are gonna die.
At the hands of a Western asset.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase.
What do you suggest?
A business trip.
Unsanctioned?
Black.
Who's your team?
Some old comrades.
And the sergeant?
He's ready.
I can get you in. After that, you're on your own. Host nation weapons only.
Leave it to me.
After Hadir goes rogue, we go to St. Petersburg trying to find the butcher. We meet with Nikolai, a recurring character from the Modern Warfare series. We capture the butcher and then successfully escape. Then we get the scene where we torture the butcher, get the choice to use his civilian wife and child as leverage, and get the choice as to whether kill them or not. None of these do anything to the story or change its course unless we shoot the wife or son, then the mission fails. One interesting thing about this torture scene is that Kyle appears to not be happy with the decision to involve civilians in an illegal torture, and Price, the guy who always does the right thing, simply deems it as necessary to do so. This connects back to the point of everything that they do is illegal, but as long as they are the ones doing it. When others step out of line, say Russians or Arabs like Hadir, then it becomes an issue.
Hey, checkpoint.
For us.
What is there a difference?
Road's blocked. What's the plan?
Shock and all.
What if they don't move?
That old hell's gonna break loose.
3 seconds.
That's plenty of time.
Holy shit, Captain.
Nikolai saved our bacon.
What if they follow?
They won't.
Boss. What the hell are we doing here?
We're cleaning up a mess.
With women and children.
They were leverage.
They were hostages.
When you take the gloves off, you get blood on your hands, Kyle. That's how it works.
Where do we draw the line, sir?
You draw the line wherever you need it, Sergeant. At the end of the day, someone has to make the enemy scared of the dark. We get dirty, and the world stays clean. That's the mission. Now, if you're having second thoughts, then I can do this on my own.
No, sir. No second thoughts.
Good. Now let's get out of here before he kills Barkov.
We're now trying to get to the location the butcher gave away, where Hadir is. Hadir is trying to get to Barkov, but we are trying to get to him first. The place is surrounded by Al-Qatala, who are trying to torture people to find out where Barkov is as well. One of the hostages gives us a hint as to where Hadir is.
Third floor, 451.
And we follow it until we find him. Then this conversation takes place.
Go! Please, I didn't know. Where's Barkov? He's not here. Family was here.
Are you protecting him?
No, we're taking you.
Come.
Wait! I'm not your enemy. I know where the gas is made. I have the location.
This is Barkov's chemical factory.
Yes, I'm taking it down. We're still on the same side, Captain.
Not like this.
Then help us. Please, help my sister.
So Barkov's men strike, and Hadir knows where the chemical weapons are being made. We shoot our way into the tunnels, and then we hand Hadir over to the Russians here.
Captain, please, give Farah the plans, tell her the truth. You'll have a chance to tell the whole world. I don't care about the world. I did this for my sister.
Baseplate to 06. Friendly air traffic approaching south of 180. Call sign is Watcher 1.
Copy. It's Laswell.
What's she doing here?
I smell blood. Lab intel. Keep it on you.
Yes, sir.
What the hell is this?
It's the off switch. We're turning him over.
To who?
Russia.
Prisoner swap.
It's one way.
What's the word, boss?
Stand by.
Don't make this ugly, Captain.
Give me a reason not to.
It's a proxy war, John. We're all just pawns in this.
Well, you speak for yourself. Hand him over.
Yes, sir.
Idea's yours, intel's mine.
Whatever you've got going on here, I can help.
I'll call you if I need you.
So there is a comparison I'd like to make here to emphasize my point of you have to play by our Western rules. After Hadir went rogue, deciding he'd use any means necessary to achieve the noble goals of freeing his country, including disobeying orders, chemical weapons, etc., the game treats him as a wild card. All of the characters do. They even give him up to the Russians as a sacrificial lamb in order to get Price to get the intel that he wants. This is essentially that treatment that he gets for not freeing his country by the Western rules. The rules that we, as players, have been breaking throughout the entire game anyway. Even when Alex disobeyed orders and left the CIA to essentially go work for a declared terrorist organization, the CIA were like, okay gang, you do you. So what's the distinction? When Alex defies orders, when he says, I'm tired of being told who my friends are, I'm going back to Urzikstan, it's framed as heroic, romantic, and morally correct. The music swells. The other characters admire him. When Hadir defies orders and uses extreme force to achieve legitimate goals, it's framed as dangerous and destabilizing. The same act, different moral framing, because one is white American CIA agent and the other is brown Urzuki freedom fighter. The game, however, does acknowledge that Hadir has every reason to feel what he feels. The conditions that created his radicalization are shown, not hidden. His sister was imprisoned, his people were bombed and occupied for decades. He has watched every conventional avenue of resistance fail. But it cannot follow through on that acknowledgement. It cannot face the logical conclusion, which is that Hadir's argument that extreme force is justified when the enemy uses chemical weapons against your people is structurally identical to the argument the United States used for invading Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Libya and operating drone strikes in countries it's not at war with. The game gets to the edge of this and steps back every fucking time.
Got E6, Captain.
Farah! Let's talk!
I know how this works, Captain.
Not this time. They gave Hadir to the Russians.
They'll kill him.
If he's lucky.
Looks like you saved the free world again, Captain Price.
Hadir located Barkov's lab in eastern Georgia.
Gas factory.
He had plans to destroy it.
Hadir's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but we're a little crazy, aren't we? Isn't that right, Alex?
Affirmative, sir.
With your help, we can finish what he started.
You're a good friend, Captain. And the worst enemy, I'm sure. But I do not cross borders and invade. I defend my people here at home.
Well, sometimes the best line of defense. It's all there. Plans, personnel.
I see. A militia with no ties to the West could carry out this mission.
And they'd all blame the terrorists, wouldn't they?
I knew I could trust you. If Barkov's there, he's mine.
This is a covert operation to destroy Barkov's gas lab. Nikolai's on the inside. He'll provide the explosives. 2 teams will infiltrate. Garrick and I will plant charges on the pipeline. Farah and Alex, you'll get a detonator from Nikolai and rig the main furnace. When the charges are set, get a safe distance and bring it down. That support from Laswell paves the way. Rest is up to us.
So, we're basically carrying out an attack on a chemical factory in Georgia of all places in order to stop the Russian production of nerve gas. Gatso would not like this one, would he? But again, the game makes this technically illegal act of war by their standards morally justified. Why? Because the game said so. But I want to pause here and talk about what the chemical weapons storyline is doing at a structural level. The entire campaign is built around finding and destroying weapons of mass destruction held by a hostile power. This is, word for word, the justification the United States government gave for the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The Iraq WMDs did not exist. The intelligence were fabricated or wrong or manipulated depending on who you ask. The WMD justification collapsed within a month of the invasion anyways. The war killed hundreds of thousands of people. In modern warfare, the WMDs are real. They are found. They are used. They are destroyed. The emotional satisfaction of this, of the mission being vindicated, of the terrible weapon being neutralized, of the moral logic holding together, is doing serious ideological work for an audience that grew up entirely after 2003. They were children when the Iraq War began. They have absorbed the failure of the WMD's argument as a cultural fact. But here, in this game, the WMDs are real. The mission is right. The deaths are justified. And as we can see, the same thing is happening today in Iran. But the game never asks, what if the intelligence was wrong? What if the WMDs were a pretext? What if we are the bad guys? Those are the questions that would make this a genuinely subversive piece of work. Modern warfare is not that. Christensen connects this to what the media scholar Roger Stahl calls militainment, the aestheticization of militarism in popular culture. This happens using 2 specific dynamics: the clean war, maximizing viewer alienation from the fact of death, making war more easily consumable, and techno-fascism, the relevant display of weaponry, equipment, and technology as objects of desire. Every mission introduces new guns, new vehicles, new ways of killing. War in this case becomes a theme park, a backdrop for showcasing hardware. But back to the mission. Farah and Alex have 2 detonators and the rest of the team have bombs that they'll plant all over the factory. Using both of the detonators will cause a chain reaction, making the entire factory explode. But something happens. Alex's detonator stops working and he realizes this. They also find out that Barkov is there and wants to escape on this helicopter, so this conversation takes place.
Clear! What happened?
Detonator's fucked.
It's dead. I'll go in there.
And do what?
Ignite the furnace.
You'll never get away in time.
I know what I'm doing.
Farah, listen to me.
No, you listen to me. Because of this poison, my people have known something worse than war. I did not come this far to turn back.
I'm not asking you to turn back. I'm asking you to give me the order.
I won't do that.
Commander, please.
I am not your CO.
Then who is? Because someone needs to light this fire and someone needs to kill Barkov. And you can't do both. I've had an assignment my whole life. This is what I believe in. Give me the order.
You are a freedom fighter, Alex.
You're a born leader, Farah. Say the word.
Go.
Yes, ma'am. Good luck.
So in order to destroy the chemical weapons facility entirely, Alex stays behind to manually detonate it. He is presumed dead from this point onward, and now we arrive at the third sacrifice of the game, Alex's sacrifice. So Alex embeds with Farah's brown freedom fighters. He adopts elements of their culture, he wears a kufiya, he calls Farah cousin. There is a will they won't they romantic tension. He ultimately sacrifices himself for Urzikstan, not for the United States. Doesn't this ring a bell? Perhaps let's make the people blue like an Avatar, or make the people indigenous like in Dances with the Wolves. It's the exact same narrative with the extra steps. It's the same old story of the white man going into a different culture, becoming like them, and then trying to save them. Now, knowing Alex's ending, let's examine the game's beginning, shall we? The game began with the act of self-sacrifice. A suicide bomber detonates in Piccadilly Circus. And the game ends with Alex detonating himself to destroy a chemical weapons facility. The first act is evil, irrational, and done by brown people. The latter act is good, heroic, and done by a white man to save brown people. Both acts are structurally identical. Both involve choosing death for a cause. Both involve a person deciding that their life is worth less than what their death can achieve. The Arabic word shaheed, martyr, applies equally to both forms from a Western point of view. The game has borrowed one of the most contested concepts in the discourse about Islam and terrorism and split it into a good version and a bad version. And of course, the bad version was done by the Arab and Muslim-coded brown people, while the good version was done by the West in order to rescue Arabs and Muslims. This is not subtle and it's not accidental. The game knows exactly what it's doing. But back to our game for now. We now play as Kyle, again, alongside Price. We plant our bombs and we find Barkov is on his helicopter trying to escape, then we find this out. Trigger warning for extreme violence, by the way.
Мне все равно, сколько сейчас времени! С Москвой мне связь! Быстро!
Say again. Barkov is wheeled up.
Скажите им это, генерал Барков! Меня не будут игнорировать! Все равно, сколько сейчас времени! С Москвой мне связь! Быстро! Скажите им это, генерал Барков! Меня не будут игнорировать!
You!
Yes, Barkov.
I'm still here, fuck!
I told you, Farah, a long time ago.
This is for my family. This is for Hadir.
What's the status?
Captain, Barkov is dead.
Roger that. Alex, charges set?
Affirmative, sir.
Alex,
I'm not getting out of here. Let's do this.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All clear, Captain.
Rog, all stations on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Confirmed visual. Target's destroyed. Well done.
Karim! Mother Russia would approve. Where to?
Urzikstan. Home.
So the game is over. Farah kills Barkov, Alex is dead, but then it's hinted that he's alive because of course he is. Russia invaded again in order to set up for the next game. All of that doesn't matter to us. Now I'd like to get to some unrelated stuff that I wasn't able to get into in this section, so shall we? So let's talk about the flags in this game. We have two flags that we can discuss here that are not the flags of any real-life organizations or countries. The Urzik flag and Al-Qatala's flag. So let's start with the first one. This is the Urzik flag, and this is Kazakhstan's emblem. The similarity in composition, I believe, is dark, so let's analyze what everything symbolizes in both emblems. The Kazakh emblem has cotton on the right side, wheat on the left side. It has a bird called the humas, symbolizing peace, happiness, and striving for freedom. Behind the bird, there are two rivers, Amudarya and Sirdarya, that flow from the mountains, and behind them there is a rising sun with its rays illuminating the place. On top, there is a cultural symbol of Islam, the crescent and star, and on the bottom there is a state flag which also wraps the cotton and wheat plants. Now the Urzik emblem. It has on the left and right, instead of cotton and wheat, opium poppies, a plant used to make hard drugs. So right off the bat, the state is marking itself as a drug state. The sun and mountains are two rivers are there, the flag wrapping the plants is there, there seems to be a cat with wings in the middle replacing the bird, and the crescent without a star on top. Regardless, most importantly, there is a sword, an element obviously borrowed from the Saudi flag. That's not reflected in Urzik culture the same way swords are culturally significant in Saudi Arabia. And below that, there is Arabic text that reads Al-Ghina Quwwa, which translates to wealth is strength. All of this indicates to us, analyzing this, that Urzikstan is a violent, drug-producing state only worried about making money, which make of that what you will. The second flag I'd like to discuss is the Al-Qatala flag. This one is more disturbing. The flag deliberately combines visual elements from two real organizations, Hezbollah, a Shia Iranian-backed group with yellow and green in their flag, and ISIS, a Sunni group with black and the seal of the Prophet on their flag. Hezbollah and ISIS are enemies in the real world. Hezbollah considers ISIS apostates, ISIS considers Hezbollah heretics. They have fought each other in Syria, and the game pastes their symbols together to create a super terrorism brand. A worst of all worlds amalgamation that no real organization would produce. But here's the most disturbing part. The center of the Al-Qatala flag features what resembles the seal of the Prophet Muhammad. Normally, this seal should read Muhammad Rasulullah, which means Muhammad is the messenger of God. It is a very sacred symbol to Muslims. On the Al-Qatala flag, however, Muhammad Rasulullah has been replaced with Al-Qatala, the killers. Sacred Islamic text has been overwritten with a word meaning murder, the most holy seal in Islamic tradition that has been repurposed as a terrorist brand. This is not an accident, and this is not a neutral design choice. Whoever made this decision at some desk in Infinity Ward in Los Angeles chose to put it word for word there, where the Prophet's name should be. That is such a profoundly specific act of desecration. Farah speaks real Arabic. Claudia is a Lebanese Australian and genuinely fluent. The game's attention to her dialect is real and, by the standards of AAA gaming, remarkable. Hadir speaks Arabic too, or more precisely, Aidan Bristow speaks sounds that approximate Arabic. When Farah and Hadir have screens together where both are supposed to be speaking their native language, one of them is doing so and the other is performing, so to speak. And if you speak Arabic, you can hear the difference immediately. But the larger question is the one Gaming Islam spends an entire episode on. Why is the language Arabic at all? Game of Thrones invented Dothraki, Star Wars invented a dozen languages, Lord of the Rings invented Elvish and multiple dialects of Elvish with full grammar. These invented languages do something important. They create representational distance. They mark the fictional world as not our world. The Dothraki are not Mongolians. The Klingons are not Russians. The languages signal that this is fiction. Do not make the connection. Modern warfare instead uses real Arabic, and this collapses the distance. Every Arabic-speaking viewer hears that their language, their mother tongue, coming from the mouths of terrorists and freedom fighters alike. There is no filter, no mediation. Their language has been conscripted into a narrative about a fictional country that is absolutely and unmistakably about the Arab world. And for every non-Arabic speaker who has absorbed through decades of news coverage and film and television the association between Arabic and the Middle East, the language is the signal. This is about those people, even if no one says so, even if the developers insist they didn't mean any specific country. The game's treatment of Farah's Arabic is praised by industry voices in the Kotaku piece, and that praise is genuine and deserved as far as it goes. But the piece also notes, even her spoken Arabic is good, which shows an attention to detail that's been previously absent. But there is one problem. Farah is from an entirely made-up Middle Eastern country. The representational good of good Arabic is undermined by its deployment in a world that homogenizes all Arabic-speaking cultures into one interchangeable place. The Gaming Islam episode on morality is the one that made me rethink the entire structure of the game. Let me walk through it. Modern warfare operates on a moral hierarchy that looks roughly like this from worst to best. At the bottom, there is Al-Qatala, irrational chaos, no articulable goals, just pure destruction. Above them, Barkov's Russian forces, rational evil, imperialist, sadistic. Above that, Hadir, legitimate grievance, illegitimate methods, just gone too far. Above Hadir, Farah's rebels, legitimate grievance, correct methods, aligned with the West, principled and targeted. And at the top there is Alex, Price, the CIA, SAS alliance, reluctant violence, minimum necessary force, and the guys that are always right. Now here is the key insight Gaming Islam provides, and it is the one that cracked this whole thing open for me. The quality that separates the good guys from the bad guys in this game is not what they do, it's why they do it. It's why they do it and how they feel about it while doing it. Good guys kill because they have to. They'd rather be on a beach somewhere. They take no pleasure in it, and violence is a burden they carry for the sake of others. Bad guys kill, however, because they want to, sadistically, ideologically, for the joy of it, or for an irrational cause no sane person would recognize. The result is a moral framework where identical actions carry completely different moral charges depending on the emotional state of the person performing them, which is convenient if you're a state military power, because it means you can never be judged by your actions, only your intentions, and your intentions are always declared good. This logic has a real-world parallel that Gaming Islam traces clearly. When the US government denied that groups labeled terrorist had irrational political grievances, it closed off all political solutions. You can't negotiate with irrational chaos. You can't address the demands of people who have no demands. The only available response becomes military. Modern warfare is not unique. It is the clearest, most financially successful expression of a pattern that has existed in gaming for decades. Tamur Hussein in Kotaku says, "For as long as I can remember, video games have used Middle Eastern settings for first-person shooting. That has significantly impacted how the world sees that region and people from there. The pattern operates through what you might call the gaming equivalent of Hollywood's yellow filter, the warm, desaturated visual grading applied to scenes set in Mexico or the Middle East as a shorthand for poverty, heat, and danger. In games, that becomes sandy textures, crumbling minarets, generic Arabic signage, destroyed infrastructure, and hot light." Nadia Shammas in Kotaku says, "The fact that a shitty Arabic country visual shorthand already exists says enough. A shorthand that, by the way, did not exist. It had to be punched into culture over and over and over again for it to stick in the subconscious." The kufiya, Shammas discusses this specifically, the kufiya is a traditional Palestinian cultural garment. It has specific regional and historical meanings, including as a symbol of Palestinian identity and resistance. In CSGO, for example, the kufiya appears as a terrorist costume. You might want to remove the desire from indigenous Palestinian people to wear the kufiya, so it shows up as a terrorist garb in fucking CSGO. That's the point. But what does this do to the people being represented? Shammas again, "If that's the framework you're given, that your country can only look shitty and your people can only look poor and they're only ever screaming, fighting, or dying, then that's how you see yourself. Then you no longer want to be that, and that pushes you into whiteness." And from a funding point of view, it's not enough to criticize what gets made. You have to ask why certain things do not get made. Rami Ismail says on Palestinian developers, "The Palestinian developer that did Layla and the Shadows of War is trying to make a game about the Nakba, the catastrophe that displaced 700,000 Palestinians. That's not going to get funded. But they are now fundraising online, so if you'd like to support them, I will have a link in the description." But who gets to tell which stories? Who gets the capital? The answer shapes culture as much as any single game. We've been circling Christensen's theoretical framework all video, so let's land on it now. Jean Baudrillard, the French philosopher, argued that in postmodern societies we have replaced reality with representations of reality, and that these representations have become more real to us than the things they represent. He called this simulacra, copies without originals. His most famous application of this was the Gulf War. In his 1991 essay, The Gulf War Did Not Take Place, Baudrillard argued that the Western experience of the Gulf War was entirely mediated, screened, framed, narrated, and packaged. Western audiences did not experience the Gulf War, they experienced a representation of the Gulf War. The CNN's Gulf War, the Department of Defense's Gulf War. Modern warfare makes this literal. Urzikstan is a simulacrum. It's not based on any single country. It's assembled from the American imaginary's accumulated images of the Middle East, which is itself a copy of Orientalist scholarship, which was itself already a copy of earlier texts. There is no original. There is no real Urzikstan from which this game has been derived. There is only the feeling of the Middle East assembled from decades of news coverage, film, television, games, and works of previous Orientalists, and that feeling has been mistaken for knowledge. Christensen's summary of Urzikstan is worth quoting at length here. Urzikstan, the playground, the battleground, the site of atrocities, the victim of empire, the former Soviet state, the Middle Eastern country, the stand-in for Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq, and Syria. Urzikstan, the unknowable, the unreal, the familiar, the abstraction, the excuse. And on realisticness versus realism, Christensen, drawing on game scholar Alexander Galloway, makes a distinction that cuts to the heart of the game's ideological function. Modern warfare claims to be realistic. Its marketing emphasizes authenticity, military advisors, real weapons, real tactics. But what it actually is realisticness. Something that looks, sounds, and feels real without being genuinely realist. A genuinely realist war game would show paperwork, boredom, trauma, moral injury, the bureaucracy of violence, the 1,000 ways soldiers come home broken. Modern warfare shows an action movie with good lighting. Let's be precise. Here is what the developers stated as their intentions, and here is what the game actually delivers. The developer said, honest and critical perspective on global geopolitics. What the game does is attributes American documented war crimes to Russia. The developers said, show that Middle Eastern people suffer from terrorism more than anyone. What the game does is that it centers American and British protagonists for the entirety of the story. The developers said that they didn't want to get wrapped up in politics of specific countries. What the game does is uses real events, names, real flags, real languages, real atrocity names, including naming a mission after a documented American war crime. The developers said, capturing the complexities of the war on terror, what the game does is presents all terrorism as irrational chaos. All Western violence as rational, reluctant, and necessary. This eventually ends up with the game being pretty simplistic. That's not an accusation of bad faith. It may be entirely true that the people who made this game had good intentions. Intentions, however, are not a relevant measure. The effect is the relevant measure. And the effect is a game that tells Western audiences the things they already believed and wanted to keep believing about the Middle East, about Islam, and about themselves. But will Call of Duty actually ever be different? The people interviewed in Kotaku's piece were asked essentially this question. Sani Ahmed, a journalist, responded, there is no value in any military game, and honestly people should just find better games to play. No cultural representation can come from Call of Duty, nor should it. Rami Ismail gave what I think is the most precisely correct answer. The problem isn't necessarily that we shouldn't have a Call of Duty game. Changing that would require a level of courage and a level of insight at the corporate level that just is impossible within our system of making games. Call of Duty is a roller coaster built on the American consciousness of war. And Christensen's conclusion is similarly precise and slightly more philosophical. He doesn't argue that Infinity Ward sat down and deliberately designed a propaganda machine. He argues that they didn't need to. The standardized molds do the work themselves, he says. Western audiences derive pleasure from these Orientalist imageries. The pleasure is the product. The game doesn't need a conspiracy, it needs a market. And there is a market, an enormous, global, extremely willing to pay for exactly this fantasy. The war on terror as an action movie. The Middle East as a playground. Yourself as the hero who cannot die. Call of Duty is not going to change. It's too profitable. It's too profitable to not be what it is. But why does this matter right now? Well, the Kotaku feature was published in December 2023. Gaza was under bombardment. White phosphorus had been confirmed deployed on Palestinian civilians by the World Health Organization. An Israeli soldier was photographed cosplaying as Ghost, the skull-masked SAS operator from Call of Duty, while deployed. The game that had desensitized millions of players to white phosphorus as a fun, rewarding killstreak mechanic in its multiplayer mode was being mirrored in real time by the weapons used on real civilians. Nadia Shammas says, "Every single one of these things is a choice and it's not a neutral one." And this quote from Tamoor Hussein is the one I keep returning to. Think about it. When was the last time you were shown a Middle Eastern setting as thriving? Did you ever learn through school or any media about the Middle Eastern world's contribution to mathematics, medicine, astronomy, language, or music? I bet you know the standard weapon loadout for a Middle Eastern terrorist, though. I think most people watching this video know exactly what he means. They know the AK-47, they know the suicide vests, they know the generic Arabic shouting, they know the desert map, and they know the terrorist compound. They don't know, however, that medieval Islamic scholars preserved and advanced the work of ancient Greek philosophers that Europe had lost. They may not know that algebra is an Arabic word. They may not know the poetry of Rumi and the architecture of Isfahan and the music of Fairuz and the cosmological contributions of Al-Biruni. They may not know the Nakba. They may not know the names of any civilians on the real Highway 80 in Kuwait. But they know Al-Qatala. This is not an abstract academic concern. This is what millions of people are taught to believe about an entire region and its people. And that belief that the Middle East is a place to be bombed and its people are interchangeable, that its history is irrelevant, that your side is always right, has consequences in the real world. Votes are cast on the basis of that belief. Wars are supported on the basis of that belief. White phosphorus is dropped on civilians and is tolerated on the basis of that belief. The game can be turned off. The ideology it teaches cannot. Baudrillard wrote in Simulacra and Simulation, "It is the real and not the map whose vestiges persist here and there in the deserts that are no longer those of the empire, but ours, the desert of the real itself." The title of Christensen's thesis, The Desert of the Real, captures the situation perfectly, and it is the length through which I want you to leave this video. We have replaced the actual Middle East with a virtual one, and the virtual one has become, for most Western players, more real than the actual. The virtual Middle East designed by Western imaginations. It serves Western pleasures. It validates Western foreign policy. It perpetuates Western authority over a region its creators will never live in, never be accountable to, and never have to survive. The real Middle East, the one with history, with living languages, with architecture and poetry and mathematics and millions of people who are not defied by the wars fought over their land, that Middle East persists, dimly in the gaps between the missions. In the Arabic that Farah speaks that nobody on the development team bothered to verify for Hadir. In the kufiya that Alex wears as a symbol of cultural adoption while Palestinian people are asked to give it up because it now reads as terrorism or anti-Semitic. The desert of the real itself. The game is very good. I said it at the beginning and I'll say it again. As a game, it's genuinely excellent. But excellence is not innocence. $1 billion in 60 days is not a neutral achievement. 30 million players is not an abstract number. So I want to end where the Gaming Islam professors end their series with the question they address to themselves and their audience equally. Does knowing this change how you play it, and should it? I don't have a clear answer to that, and I don't think anyone does. But I think the question deserves to sit with you, longer than a loading screen quote and longer than your respawn timer. Thank you so much for watching this. Genuinely, this kind of video asks a lot of the audience, and I'm grateful you stayed. If you have stayed till the end, please subscribe. I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers. This takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Thank you so much for staying until the end. Please write a comment. I always love to read comments. Please, I love comments. Thank you very much. Until next time.